My name is Hannah. I am legally married to Luke, but I fell in love with my charming neighbor Mark. It started gradually with a sexy look and eye contacts, then we met finally. The kiss was slow, gentle at first, then desperate. Like both of us had waited far too long. His hands knew where to go. My body responded like it had been asleep, and just remembered what it was like to feel alive. We didn't make it to the bedroom. Right there by the pool on the lounger, with only the stars watching, we crossed that line. A line we both knew better than to touch. Afterward we said nothing. He kissed my forehead, whispered goodnight, and left through the gate. I sat there, robe barely clinging to my shoulders, heart racing, skin still tingling. I told myself it was a mistake. Just once. A lapse in judgment. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, do well to subscribe and hit on notifications. To all my returning subscribers, thank you for always watching my videos. If you drove past our home, you'd probably slow down just to stare. Tall gates, palm trees, clean lines, everything spotless, sleek, and expensive. It looked like something out of a luxury magazine. And in many ways it was. Luke and I were the power couple of the block. He, the brains behind one of the fastest growing tech firms on the West Coast. Me, the face of a booming real estate empire. We were the kind of couple people toasted at dinner parties, called goals online, and whispered about behind fake smiles. But all that success, it came with distance. Long nights, missed dinners, silent mornings. Luke was always on the road, or in a meeting. We loved each other, I think. Or maybe we just loved the empire we built. Then Mark moved in. He was young, mid-20s maybe. Tall, lean, confident. The kind of neighbor you notice even when you pretend not to. I first saw him unloading boxes from his car in sweatpants and no shirt. I told myself to look away, but my eyes didn't listen. Mark was polite. Called me Miss Hannah, with that boyish grin, and always offered to help with the trash bins or fix something around the yard. He had that gentle charm, the kind that didn't try hard, didn't need to. But there was something else in his eyes when he looked at me. Something bold. I ignored it. At least I tried. Luke left for a business trip one Thursday afternoon. I stood at the front porch waving goodbye, watching his car disappear. As usual, no kiss. No 월음고비에. Just a don't forget the Andersons dinner on Saturday. That evening I was out watering the front plants when Mark jogged past, glistening with sweat, earbuds in. He stopped, pulled them out, and smiled. You good, Miss Hannah? That voice, deep, smooth, young. I laughed, wiping my hands on my shorts. I'm good, Mark. Just keeping the roses alive. You're always out here doing something, he said. You don't let anyone help you, do you? Not when they call me Miss Hannah like I'm 50, I teased. He grinned and stepped closer. What should I call you then? I paused. Hannah, I said. Just Hannah. Something in the air shifted. He nodded but didn't move. We stood there for a second too long. Neighbors, yes, but suddenly aware of every breath, every beat. You want some water? I asked. It's hot. Sure, he said. Thanks. He followed me into the house. Shoes off at the door. Looked around like he was stepping into a magazine spread. Your place is beautiful, he said. Thank you, I replied, handing him a cold bottle. It photographs well. He laughed. You do too. I looked up at him, startled. He didn't flinch. Didn't take it back. That was the first moment I saw him not as a neighbor, not as a boy, but as a man. And it scared me how much I liked it. That night, I didn't sleep well. I lay in bed thinking about his eyes, his voice, that fearless way he looked at me. And in the quiet, lonely dark of my bedroom, I realized something I hadn't admitted in years. I was starving for attention, for touch, for something real. And Mark, my young, bold neighbor, had just stepped into my hunger like he knew exactly how to feed it. It didn't happen all at once. That would have made it easier to explain. Easier to forgive myself. But no, it crept in like a slow leak in the ceiling. You don't notice the damage until the roof caves in. After that first night, something in me stirred. I found myself peeking through the blinds when Mark jogged past. I started wearing softer dresses while tending the yard. First it was innocent, maybe even denial. But then came the heat. It was a Tuesday. Luke had extended his trip again. Meetings ran over. He texted, "Don't wait up." I didn't reply. That evening the air was thick with summer. I poured myself a glass of white wine and sat by the pool. Mark's music drifted from next door. Something slow, moody. I should have gone inside. I didn't. Instead I texted him. "Me pool's warm. Wine's cold. If you're not busy." He replied almost instantly, "Mark, be there in 5. I felt my heart pound in a way it hadn't in years. When he walked through the gate, he didn't bring excuses or pretend to act neighborly. He just looked at me like he already knew the answer to a question I hadn't dared ask out loud. We talked, laughed. Let the wine speak first. "I always wondered," he said after a long silence, "what it would feel like to touch someone like you." I swallowed hard. Someone like me? Beautiful. Untouchable. Taken. I should have shut it down. I should have told him to go home. But I didn't. Instead I leaned in. The kiss was slow. Gentle at first, then desperate. Like both of us had waited far too long. His hands knew where to go. My body responded like it had been asleep and just remembered what it was like to feel alive. We didn't make it to the bedroom. Right there by the pool on the lounger with only the stars watching, we crossed that line. A line we both knew better than to touch. Afterward we said nothing. He kissed my forehead, whispered goodnight, and left through the gate. I sat there, robe barely clinging to my shoulders, heart racing, skin still tingling. I told myself it was a mistake. Just once. A lapse in judgment. But deep down I knew better. It wouldn't be the last time. And Luke had no idea what was unraveling just steps from our shared bed. I tried to go back to normal. Cooked dinner. Took calls. Sat through board meetings like I wasn't coming undone inside. Luke returned from New York full of numbers and success stories. But his kisses were brief and distracted. I watched him talk. Watched his mouth move. And all I could think about was how different Mark's touch felt. How present he was. How real. It was dangerous how quickly I fell into rhythm with Mark. Every time Luke traveled, Mark would slide through the side gate like a secret only I was allowed to have. He learned my body like it was a language. And I, God help me, spoke it fluently with him. We didn't talk about the future. There were no promises. Just long nights, whispered names, and silent mornings where I stared at myself in the mirror, wondering who I'd become. But lies like fruit left out too long eventually rot. One Saturday afternoon everything cracked. Luke had flown out that morning. I didn't waste time. I texted Mark. "Come over when you're ready. No need for coyness anymore." This was our pattern. But what I didn't know was that Luke's meeting had been canceled. And what none of us knew was that Briggs, our teenage godson and Luke's business partner's son, was in town early and staying with us for the weekend. He arrived while I was in the shower. Mark already in my bed. I remember the knock at the bathroom door. "Aunt Hannah." It was Briggs' voice. My heart dropped. My towel slipped. I cracked open the door, heart hammering. "Briggs? What are you doing here?" "Uncle Luke told me to crash here till Sunday. He said you wouldn't mind." Mind? I was seconds away from being caught naked with our neighbor. "Oh, of course, sweetheart. I was just napping. Didn't hear the door. You hungry?" He shook his head. "I'll just chill in the guest room." I nodded and watched him disappear down the hallway. The moment I shut the bathroom door, I turned to Mark, who was half-dressed and pale. "You have to go. Now." He slipped out the back door quietly, but the damage had already begun. The next few days were tense. My nerves were frayed. And even worse, Mark started pulling back. He stopped texting first. Showed up late. Became distant. Then came the real hit. Luke called me from across the country, voice low and controlled. "Hannah, is there something going on between you and the neighbor?" Silence. "Why would you ask that?" He sighed. "Because Briggs saw him leaving through the side gate, shirtless. And you told me you spent that weekend alone." There it was. The shelf cracked. The lice spoiled. I had no answer, only silence. And silence was its own confession. The days that followed felt like living inside a collapsing house, each wall crumbling louder than the last. Luke didn't yell. He didn't curse. He just went quiet. That silence hurt more than screaming ever could. I don't even know who you are anymore, he said one evening, not looking at me. Was it him the whole time? Or were there others too? There was no one else, I whispered. And that was the truth. The worst kind of truth. Because one was enough to ruin everything. Mark stopped coming over after that. No calls. No texts. He avoided me like I was poison. And maybe I was. I never told him what Luke found out. I never asked for closure. We just vanished from each other's lives the same way we had slipped into them. Quietly and too fast. The neighborhood knew eventually. Word travels. People stared longer at the grocery store. Friends stopped inviting me to brunch. Luke moved into a condo downtown for space. Though we both knew space wasn't what we needed, it was distance.
Permanent distance.
One night, weeks later, I passed by Mark's house. His lights were off. The porch was empty. A for sale sign stood by the mailbox. He was gone. And just like that, what we had, those stolen nights, the heat, the longing, was reduced to a memory too heavy to carry and too risky to speak aloud. I stood at the edge of my driveway and looked up at the stars, remembering the first night he touched me under the same sky. It hadn't been love. Not really. It had been need. Escape. A selfish craving dressed up as passion. And like all things that aren't meant to last, it came with a price. Now I live with the echo of it, quiet, lingering, sharp around the edges. And every time I pass that side gate, I remember the young man who made me feel alive again, even if it destroyed everything in the end. Have you ever imagined yourself in this kind of situation? What did you do about it? Subscribe to this channel and hit on notifications for more interesting stories like this.